the past century, the way in which disabled people are treated in America has changed drastically. In past generations, physically and more so mentally disabled people were not accepted in society and were largely kept in inhumane institutions. However, beginning in the late 1900s, groups like the National Association for Retarded Children formed in support of disabled people. In 1968, the first Special Olympics was held after being founded by John Kennedy's sister, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, in honor of their sister Rosemary, who had suffered from a mental disability. In 1973, the Rehabilitation Act was passed, and Section 504 of the Act made it illegal for public institutions receiving any federal funds to discriminate on the basis of disability. It was the first time in U.S. history that disabled people's civil rights were protected by law. Over the next few decades, other legislation was advocated for and passed in favor of disabled people. In 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law by President George H.W. Bush. The ADA was largely modeled after the 1964 Civil Rights Act and is considered the most important civil rights law since Title 504. It prohibits all discrimination and guarantees that people with disabilities have the same opportunities as everyone else to participate in mainstream American life.
So, do I think my sister would have been treated differently today if she was born today versus 30 years ago? Absolutely. It is a night and day difference, the culture, the way that people look at these kids that have challenges or mental or physical disabilities. But yeah, she would have a lot more opportunities. I think people would be much more just generally kind on a day-to-day basis, and just accepting of her difference.
New societal attitudes are evident through an influx of stories celebrating special needs people in the media.
Incredible moment for the Imagine Prep High School basketball team when a special needs player made an impressive three-pointer shot during last week's game.
And the crowd just went wild, erupting in cheers, particularly the players from the opposing team. Stephanie Olmo has more on this incredible story.
Derek Wagner recalling the crowd chanting his name from the bleachers as he positioned himself for a three-pointer shot. After his first attempt, he was given a second chance. The ball goes in and the crowd roars with excitement. Wagner has a developmental disability, but despite the everyday challenges, he remains committed to putting his all into everything he does.
Family members of special needs people in the late 1990s were the main advocates for civil rights reform. The bond between special needs people and their family is an especially strong one, and in today's society, families have shown more optimism in regards to the way society looks upon their loved ones.
It's my little buddy. He's just a joy to be around, I think the best thing about Jackson is, he's 12 years old and makes my day every day, because when I walk in the door, he still runs to greet me like he's, 4, and he's excited to see Dad. And in the morning when I wake up, everything like that. So he sort of brightens my day all the time just because of stuff like that.
Yeah, I always say, I would be happy too if everybody that walked up to me was like, hey, how are you? You're the best in the whole world. And I'm like, but is that it? Is it them coming up to him, or is it just the way he is bringing it out? And I think that's really it. Kids and adults with Down syndrome are known for being very loving. They want to hug you. They want to just run up and talk to you. And he is no different. He also has the stubborn streak, as I said earlier. But so people just light up when they see him and talk to him. And it's probably because he lights up he looks at you and you just can't help but get a big smile on your face.
The mayor of Johns Creek.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm at the mayor of the middle school.
You're mayor of the middle school?
I had a sister that was 3 years younger than me that pretty much until my adulthood, there was a little bit of embarrassment maybe, but it wasn't because I was embarrassed truly by her, but society made me feel that I needed to be. So growing up with a sibling that had special needs, when we would go to stores, my mom would kind of hide her a little bit. A lot of times maybe she wouldn't even come with us, but you could feel people kind of staring at you or not being empathetic to her behaviors. So if she is not doing something of the social norms, people would roll their eyes, or they would move away or walk really quickly to get away or move away from us. And it was just kind of an awkwardness, or you always kind of felt like you were ostracized, which is so incredibly different now. I think it's amazing to see how kids are celebrated, and they're not always considered to have like a handicap, but instead of celebrated for being different. And that was something that wasn't even in consideration when I was growing up. She had to be in special classes at school. If there was even a school where she could be educated, but there was never like mainstreaming with other kids. And now I think, actually I know I've met families who had kids that had disabilities similar to my sister, and they are almost kind of the center focus of the family. And they have been much more, or given an opportunity to be much more open and loving and expressive with that disability that wasn't, again, just was not an option when I was growing up. So just an example, one family friend that we have that has a kid with a disability like that, he's funny, he's witty. People want to be around him and laugh with him about the quirky or different things that he says, and they experience life through a unique way of thinking, where I kind of look in retrospect on how people treated my sister, and it was just that she was kind of a detriment or odd or kind of strange, or there was just no sympathy or empathy at all with people. So I don't know, I think the culture of, especially within families of kids with special needs, is dramatically different for the better. I just think it's awesome that people are allowed to celebrate those that are different than the average kid.
I mean, it really amazes me how people react all the time, right? I mean, I think, you know, one of the coolest things is the way everybody's just embraced our family and him since he was born, right? I mean, you know, we didn't know what to expect, you know, when he was born, and it's just somebody new every day reaches out and does something special and touches us, our family, and touches him. And he has just so many friends. I mean, it just amazes me. I mean, I think, you know, you get discouraged about the way people get treated in society, and people are rude to each other and things like that. And we see a different side of everybody because he brings that out in them. It's really just amazing to see. I think that's the coolest part of it.
You do see a lot of stories for kids with Down syndrome where they're like on the football team, and the football team really comes together. Yeah. And I think that they can have a big impact on society in that way, where they're really bringing groups of kids together that wouldn't ordinarily be quite as kind or loving as they were. So.
On World Down Syndrome Day is people wear crazy socks, and you know I always wear colorful socks, and so I like sending that out to everybody at my company, and I send it on Facebook trying to get everybody to send me pictures
of
them wearing. It's not till this weekend.
I know, but I need to.
Yeah, but I send a note out trying to get everybody to send me pictures of the colorful socks, and I create this massive collage of everybody that's wearing colorful socks for World Down Syndrome Day in his honor. So last year I think we had about 65 pictures, and I sent it out at the last minute. So I'm hoping I get a couple hundred this year out of it.